Jacobite you call me, and the Jacobite I am. I stand for Scotland's laws and rights, I am the loyal man. And if that Culloden here they kill me and I die, the grave which I inhabit, it's Jacobite as I. I'm proud to be a traitor, cause it's to a tyrant crown. Against a form of slavery, I gladly stand my ground. I'll no accept the union with shotgun it was made. My rising won't be over until all debts repaid. It's the Jacobite you call me, and the Jacobite I am. I stand for Scotland's laws and rights, I am the loyal man. And if that Culloden would yet kill me and I die, the grave which I inhabit, that's Jacobite as I. No more we'll take handouts with the cap in hand. I'll see the servile chains of faith broken in this land, and I'll see my people honoured with the life that they deserve. And I'll fight them with my dying breath, and that you have my word. It's the Jacobite they call me, and the Jacobite I am. I stand for Scotland's laws and rights, I am the loyal man. And if that Culloden here they kill me and I die, the grave which I inhabit, that's Jacobite as I. There'll be no more clearances except the clear way. No longer am I waiting for a prince over the sea. Now it's in our own hands, our hope and destiny. If you call yourself a Jacobite, come and stand with me. It's the Jacobite they call me, and the Jacobite I am. I stand for Scotland's laws and rights, I am a loyal man. If that Culloden would you kill me and I die, the grave which I inhabit, that's Jacobite as I.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from in the world, and welcome. Or perhaps I should say welcome back.
Welcome back. Hold on. I'm just checking we're live on. Yeah, we are. That's all right. Yeah. Very well. I'm just fiddle about. Yeah, that's fine.
Question for those watching on YouTube. Richard, your first message came up before we'd gone live, and we were sat there, well, I was sat there panicking whether the shit we chat beforehand was actually going out across to the YouTube viewers. Not that we say anything we're worried about, but it's just would be nice to know whether we were actually live.
It's bad enough that Alex watches while the music's on. I'm sure. See, I never realised that. I could have been sat there going like that. I could have been doing anything. Yeah.
I'm usually sat there going like that, so dancing along to it, sometimes singing along to it. So.
Oh yeah, I know this is the one that it's such a catchy, bouncy little tune that I was sitting there going, "Come on, let's call me." That's the one. I've started to believe that what we need is more outros. We've got one, which we put onto the Wednesday Smokums, don't we? That's on that one, I think. We could do with an outro for this one, and we could do an outro for Gleam in the North, and all the shows really. A little outro that we played, even if it was just one generic one that we put on all the other shows. Perhaps, I don't know. Perhaps someone out there would like to create a generic Jacobite outro, because I think I don't know who it was who created the one that the one with the flags.
The clans. Clan.
Yeah, the clan one. Yeah.
I've kind of got one on Gleam. I tend to use the old the rewritten version of Eve of Destruction. So I kind of use one on there sometimes. Yeah.
I never noticed that. I don't know.
I didn't. When you said it first time you said it, I didn't realise. But when I did it, it shows how much attention I pay to my own show. But when I finished off this week's, I thought, we have got an outro set up.
Cool. No,
I didn't notice either, really.
No. Well, I know it's only a minor thing. I mean, we're here reporting on the shit show that is the world, and it's just a little thing. But I don't know. Sometimes I think it's sort of better than just going blank. You know, I mean, just bang, finish, cut off. So I don't know. I'm trying to think if anybody else does it. I know everyone has an intro. All the sort of internet shows that you watch, all the sort of YouTubers and everything. But I don't know anybody who uses an outro. So anyway, never mind. It's just me overthinking it.
No, William used to years ago, but I don't watch enough shows full stop to know who does or doesn't, to be honest.
There are a few that I watch. I've started to watch Dark Journalist. I like that one. I watch one, I can't remember what it's actually called. There's one that's always about, it's all about financial markets, but mostly about gold and silver. It's this Asian guy, and I can't remember what it's called, but that's always good. And what else? I'll listen to Galloway before this show normally comes on. I'll catch about an hour of that. What else? So I do watch a few.
Yeah.
I used to watch people like, years ago, I used to watch Bongino, and he recently came back on air. I can't stand the guy anymore.
Yeah.
He fills the airways with words.
You just don't have any meaning.
Very little indeed, of any consequence, and I think that's a similar case to Russell Brand, who, again, I used to watch, but he's even worse. He just says an awful deal without saying anything. So I don't know. Perhaps it's just me. My tolerance level has gone down, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
More selective. So
I don't think my tolerance level ever went up.
Yeah. Famously intolerant.
It's terrible, really, because when we do have a show that tends to go a bit more, and every now and again we'll have one that for some reason it just catches on and goes sort of viral. And the more people that listen, the more fuckwits you get, obviously, because it's a standard proportion. I don't think he's been turned. I don't think he ever was awake. Now he was always a shill, for want of a better word. Russell Brand. Yeah, what about? But it's what was I saying? I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Oh, damn it! As we get distracted. Whenever we have a show that goes viral, you get more fuckwits. So I'll start seeing comments like, "Oh, get to the point," or "You're taking too long to say it," and things like this. And I think, "Oh, you fucking idiot!" And I think, haven't you got an attention span? And I've even said to a few of them, "Oh, how about you grow an attention span instead?" And then I realized today that it really depends who I'm listening to, because there are some people I can listen to and I think, "Oh, really? Can you say something worth saying?" And I think I can be as bad if it's not somebody I want to be listening to.
I try to think. I like to watch Galloway when he has. There's a guy called Morandi, who's the. He's kind of the. He's almost like an unofficial Iranian ambassador, but he's a college professor. But I tell you what, that guy speaks more sense about, well, not only Iran but world affairs in general than an awful lot of people. He's just, I'll listen to him, and I do like to watch Putin. Although you're never quite sure if the translator is actually saying what he is saying. You know what I mean? Because you get different translators, and I don't know. But it'd be a shame. It's always, mind you, Putin's of an age probably never needed to learn English because he's in a very similar vein that I don't know any Russian. So
I always kind of think that with translations myself. I'm thinking I'm relying on you being accurate here, but a lot of what's said, I think, probably is. And if it is, then that is somebody I can listen to for 3-4 hours without a problem.
Yeah, I don't find any problems listening to him.
Because it makes sense, and he tells a good tale in a way. An important one usually, but it's no, there are. I don't have the tolerance that. Well, I don't know if I ever did have the tolerance, but I certainly don't have the tolerance for some of these people. And I'll get 10 minutes of nothing. Oh.
Yeah, sometimes I like to get their take on things, and that's the only. Well, I used to watch Bongino because at one time I leaned more towards his kind of a point of view, but since he's finished with the shortest FBI career anyone's ever had, I think he's still, I don't know, I wouldn't say worships the ground Trump walks on. He basically licks the ground that Trump walks on. He just annoys me in that way. So, but there might be Dan Bongino fans out there. I just feel sorry for you, but I can't stop you watching him. You watch who you like. You can watch yours.
Talk about shit about other people, but
talk shit about other people, yeah.
And giving you a chance to get in and things.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you don't apologise now for that, and then you didn't. So, well, there might be people might have fans, and there might be people that but that like him, and I feel sorry for you. Sorry, I thought
free speech. Free speech.
It's good. It's good because I'm thinking, don't apologise if what you say is right. Why are you apologising to them? Don't go all tact for me now. And then you said, I feel sorry for you. Anyway, we better get on to.
We better get on.
It'll be stupid o'clock.
I've often thought if we just waffled on like this for the whole show, what our audience number would be. If we perhaps climb or drop. Or, we could rename it the Waffle Show, where we just chat shit. So,
well, I'm not going to say shit. For future,
the Waffle Show. We used to have a chit chat show, didn't we? I mean,
we did, yeah.
That was more interactive, but yeah, we can turn it into that. All right, so we have got a few stories to bring you today from the wide world of the mire that is world news. So, where do you want to go, Alex?
Well, I thought I'd start us off today because I usually throw you in first, but I thought I'd start us off today. And this is one from Australia for our Australian viewers who now have to watch what they're saying again, supposedly. And obviously, this follows on from the whole Bondi Beach shooting and from this whole situation. And it also relates to the fact that you've just had a visit from the Israeli president. Because, of course, since Bondi Beach, and they were all... I mean, Bibi's been out again now, basically calling out the whole of the Western world for not supporting him enough, despite the fact that the whole of the Western world are doing nothing but support Israel, or the leadership of the Western world. But... So I think to try and prove that Australia is standing fully behind Israel, and because they had the visit from the Israeli president and all that this last week or so, it's caused, I think, the timing for this. But what they've actually now done, or they're putting through legislation this week to outlaw the phrase "from the river to the sea." So that anybody who uses the phrase, has a sign, I think they're taking notes from the British government, has a sign with the phrase, writes it down, etc., could literally be jailed for up to 7 years. The headline suggesting 2 years, when you actually read into it, it's apparently up to 7 years. So whether they've already set the average amount for using the words or not, I don't know. They're also trying to add globalize the infidada. Data. I can't pronounce that word. But this is the other one they're trying to add. But we're at an insane situation where protesting, as we know, well, we know we're in a same situation where protesting genocide can get you considered terrorist organization in the UK, can get you jailed for using the words from the river to the sea. So I'll see how many times I can use them in this introduction, just to make the point, and can actually turn out to be a criminal action. Now, this is the, I don't know what the, is it governors you have over there? But this is David Chris Foley, which is the, I don't know, is it governors of Queensland? Yes. Or Premier of Queensland anyway, I think it is. He said, we want to deliver a strong and considered response. We called this out from the beginning. We said we'd act, and through this legislation, we're delivering that response. It's about drawing a clear line and stamping out the embers of hatred that were allowed to burn unchecked for too long. Well, the only problem with this, and we've said this before, and I'm sure we will say this again, is from the river to the sea didn't start out from the Palestinian side. It goes back, well, it goes back even further, and it goes back almost to the birth of Zionism. But in the Likud Party 1977 manifesto, the original platform, well, it says, funny enough, it says on here now, it says, between the sea and the Jordan, there will only be Israeli sovereignty. And that's what they claim now is used. But I'm sure that was the other way round. I'm sure that was between the Jordan and the sea, there would only be Israeli sovereignty, because it seems to flow much. But it doesn't really matter which way round it is. It's a clear antecedent to the from the river to the sea phrase. And it was originally used by the Zionists. So when that became a cry for the Palestinians, it was a refusal to accept that. It was an answer to that claim, an answer to pushing them out of existence in their ideals and the ideas for the future. And considering everything that Israel wants is probably even beyond from the river to the sea. If you look at his plan for Greater Israel, I don't see that Palestine calling for freedom between those two boundaries can ever be an illegal phrase. And how do you control that? What point does that become illegal? If somebody's saying that they will deliver from the river to the sea, if they're fishing for river fish and they're going to deliver from the river right up to the sea, we will deliver for the whole of Israel, does that advertising slogan become a jail sentence? What point, how do you confirm, if they say from the river to the sea, every part of the population is one of our customers. If they say from the river to the sea, we will anything.
Do delivery.
Yeah, do delivery. Yeah. How far does it go, and how do you police something like that? And how do we get to a level of insanity that words can be a crime? How can words be a crime in the first place? It's insane when you ask me, but that's where we're at. Yeah. And it is just crazy.
What would happen if you marched down the street shouting, from the river to the sea, only Israel will it be? Or one of the other connotations of that, which I've heard. Is it, why should that phrase, just like you explained there, why should that phrase only hold Palestinian meaning? Because just like you said, originally it was a sort of it was a chant taken up by football people and stuff like, what's that band, the club that got banned, the one from Tel Aviv, who we're all supposed to welcome into the country with open arms, but are a bunch of Nazi thugs. It was the kind of chant they used, as well as death to Arabs and other interesting phrases, and doing Nazi salutes and things like that. Yeah, this is, it's, I just can't get my head around it, because all of a sudden in the 21st century, it's become the most offensive things in life that have to be stamped on and have to be guarded against are free speech and cardboard signs. Anything else? No, you're fine. I do admit I have been raping children for 20 years. Yeah, but did you have a cardboard sign? It's not. Yeah, I don't know. I really can't get my head around it, Alex. It represents one step from thought crime. How about if you stood there thinking from the river to the sea?
Yeah.
How about if you stood there thinking it? What if there was a mass thinking where all these protesters turned up and just thought nasty thoughts towards government buildings? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the direction we're moving in. That's the direct. We've already seen people arrested for praying in their heads, things like that. And so, yeah, it's a dangerous step, and almost feels like Australia has been manipulated into this. I don't know how strong their Israel lobby is. I suspect it's quite strong. You've got there's an awful lot of fuckwits in Australia. People like Bernie Finn, who I think is a vile character. Far right wing people who consider anybody. Oops, that's my dog. She hates that name, Bernie Finn. Every time she hears it, she barks. I've trained her. Bernie Finn. So yeah, no. No, it's a sad state of affairs, and I believe it should be something that should be fought against. It should be fought against and challenged, and the only way to challenge that is by a mass disregard, and then see what happens. Can't arrest everybody, every week doing the same thing. That's the only way to do it. Is to challenge bad laws.
I've always fought with these things because it's like the Palestine action signs.
Yeah.
Because, and a lot of these people that were they've actually managed now to finally acquit, which I find quite interesting, just as these sort of things come out. So they never give up. They just move the target. But it does make, it's like the Palestine action ones, as I say, and I really thought somebody should take that one up. That they should have had a sign and they should have constantly passed it round and round the entire march. So at one point in time, everybody on that march had held that sign, because they cannot arrest 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 people. Yeah. And they really, if they're in Australia and they've had big marches, I don't know how many they get in Queensland specifically, but they ought to do the same. If you've got an entire 1,000 person, 2,000 person, 10,000 person march, or shouting from the river to the sea, are you going to arrest every one of them?
No.
Can you arrest every one of
them? Aren't they? Yeah, they're going to grab a few, and eventually that arrest rate mounts up to such a point where the government almost has to do something about it. They have to take notice. But it's just another one of those cases where bad laws should be challenged. The law is, you are governed by consent. They don't have carte blanche authority to pass whatever laws they want, or in theory they don't. Just lately, it's been more and more that they seem, our people in power seem to think that they have that right, but they don't. They govern you by your consent. And so if you don't consent, then you should prove, show that you don't consent. So, and that law starts to become challenged. So, don't put up with it.
No,
if you feel strongly about something, don't put up with it.
And if you're in the state of Queensland, then don't put up with it. And if you're in other parts of Australia, then don't put up with it now, so it doesn't come and spread to the other states. Because it's oh yes, we're doing something, and it's like yes, we're going to crack down on anti-Semitism that was never there in the first place. Isolated incident does not mean that the country is anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic does not mean criticizing the state of Israel, or it didn't before they kept changing the meaning. It doesn't mean in criticizing the state of Israel for committing genocide, or questioning whether they are committing genocide if you're going to try to claim it's not obvious. So if you're going to try to claim it's not obvious, then you're fucked in the head anyway. One of the more tactful way of saying that. I don't want to be tactful. I feel no need to be tactful on it. But
I hate the phrase when they were using it during the ongoing, which is ongoing still. They're just trying to keep the numbers down now. As long as they kill under about 100 people a week, then nobody really bothers them. But they just keep doing it. And to me, a ceasefire isn't when one side stops firing. A ceasefire is a bilateral arrangement. It should apply on both sides, surely. Otherwise, it's not a ceasefire. And what we have right now isn't a ceasefire.
No, it's not. And they had the cheek within the last week to accuse Hamas of breaking the ceasefire after they've killed. Well, about 2 weeks ago now, it was 470 since the ceasefire began. I don't know what we're up to now. That was about 2 weeks ago. Might have been
but it is every week. It's every day.
Week, every day the numbers go up.
Yeah. And so, to me, I can't see that there's a functional ceasefire. There is no functional ceasefire while one side keeps firing. Then you haven't ceased fire, have you? Well, it was only one bomb. It was only one JDAM. It's only well, today it was. Tomorrow it'll be another one. So that's just low level, isn't it? It's not low level. You are breaking the agreement, and they have broken the agreement every day since October. So I can't see how you can even call it a ceasefire.
Now, the problem with comments is you don't always read them how they're meant. But the war in Middle East is so yesterday, somebody's saying, for over 5,000 years, for fuck's sake. Well, it's that attitude that something is so yesterday that's the problem. The attitude that, oh, well, it's just the Middle East, or, oh, well, they're always fighting. That's what makes a people ignore the murder, the slaughter of 70,000 plus people, because it's over there and we don't worry about it unless it's on our doorstep. Exactly. It allows people to condone or just accept or just acknowledge that 20,000 plus children have been murdered, maimed. There are more juvenile or child amputees in Gaza than I think throughout history in the rest of the world.
Any war ever.
Some such statistic close to that. Yeah. So it's not so yesterday. And I might be reading that comment in a different manner in which you meant it. I can't be 100% sure. But if you did mean it how it reads, then I'm sorry, but that's the problem. Not even just part of the problem. That is the problem. But it's also not been for over 5,000 years, because it really only got to where it was from 1947 onwards. I'm not saying there was never strife, but there wasn't there wasn't the controversy. There wasn't, not controversial. That's not the word I'm looking for. There wasn't the conflict in the way that there is back in the days of the Ottoman Empire. There wasn't even at the early stages of the British Mandate. It was only really to the level that it's at from the foundation of Israel and the state of Israel. The Israelis are not the Israelites. And I've said that so many times, but that needs saying again, because this is how they've played the game. This is how they've twisted people's understanding by, well, making Christians across the world conflate the concept of the Israelites with the concept of Israel and the Israelis. And Israel didn't exist in biblical times. The Israelis do not date back to biblical times. There's a closer DNA connection and probably a closer historic and origin connection with the Palestinians than there is with the modern day Israelis.
Indeed.
Palestinians are Semites too. We forget that when it comes to anti-Semitism. We conveniently and choose to, not we, but in general, it's conveniently chosen to forget that fact when it comes to anti-Semitism.
Exactly. And we have allowed them to redefine what it means to be anti-Semitic. That was a deliberate manipulation done by the Zionists, in order to narrow what classes as anti-Semitism into anti-Israel, basically into anti-Zionism. Anyone who criticizes the Israeli state, anyone who says, oh, they shouldn't be doing that, anybody who finds it abhorrent that they murdered children, anybody who finds it abhorrent that they murder Christians or Muslims or anybody else or do anything that they do, oh, that's anti-Semitism. Well, it is not. And not only that, some people will then argue, Semitic means language. It means a group of family of languages, which technically it does. But anti-Semitism was always, not so much these days, but what it used to mean was that people had Semitic traits in that they were of Middle Eastern origin, and that included their language. And so in all respects, I'm sick of doing that. In all respects, the Palestinians qualify as Semites, and incoming Ashkenazi Jews like to say, look, we're Semites because we speak modern Hebrew. Well, a lot of modern Hebrew isn't even Hebrew. It's only 120 years old, that language, and it was invented by, I can't remember, some Polish guy or something like that. So it's mostly not Semitic, and it's only vaguely linked to ancient Hebrew. So they've twisted it so much now that most people no longer understand the meaning of Semitism. So yeah,
it's all confusion, and it's all deliberate. It's all deliberate confusion, obfuscation, and all that sort of thing. Again, it just
Israel don't do things by accident.
Oh,
They don't accidentally invade other countries. They don't accidentally bulldoze people's houses. They don't do any of that by accident. It's all deliberate. So yeah. Now we've got me off on Israel and Palestine again, and I've been avoiding it just lately. So, I may come back to it again in another.
Always will. It always will come back because it's one of the main problems that we have in this world. It's one of the main conflict points. It's one that has the potential, with the expansion to Iran, of being a cause for, and the a trigger point, if you like, of World War III.
Yeah.
Which they need as the perfect distraction from the Epstein files.
Which again leads back to Israel.
Which again leads back. Oh, no. You're wrong. The Telegraph told me. BBC told me. The man from the Daily Mail told me. All of them told me Epstein was a Russian spy. I think they spelt Moscow wrong. I think they spelt Moscow Moscow, but I think what they meant to spell it was MOSSAD. The thing is that nobody is believing it. Nobody is. It's not ignoring it. The answer is not ignoring. The answer in that region is not ignoring it or saying it's yesterday's news.
No,
it's not rhetoric. It's not rhetoric. You've outed yourself in that last sentence, I'm afraid, Roger, because from the start of it, you're saying, "Oh, it's you understand the reality." Sorry, I'll get back to my point in a minute, Glenn. But you understand the reality of the situation in the Middle East. But in your last sentence, whose rhetoric do you listen to? Because the only rhetoric here is Israel's. There is not rhetoric on both sides because you don't hear the other side. You hear the people shouting for the other side, but how much news do you actually hear out of the Middle East from the Palestinian side? Because the truth is you don't. You might hear the numbers might leak out. You might hear people like Al Jazeera reporting, but Al Jazeera is not Palestinian. Al Jazeera is Qatari. You might hear the odd bit of truth sneak through, but you're not hearing rhetoric from both sides because you're not hearing from both sides. You're seeing ordinary men and women that are getting videos out. You're seeing ordinary stories. You're seeing kids with their limbs cut off. I don't believe that to create rhetoric, anybody would cut their own children's limbs. Well, I sometimes wonder about the likes of Israel, but I still doubt even they would cut their own kids' limbs off to make a point.
I've seen every iteration of this nonsense before. I've seen all the iterations that say, look, more crisis actors. More 10 minutes before and then they set this whole scene up. Yeah, right. Okay. So what have they done? Built a film set that looks exactly like Gaza, and filled it full of 600 million tons of rubble, and then took photographs of it. Yeah, right. Okay. There is a damn good reason why they've never allowed journalists in. There is a damn good reason why they've never allowed the international press into that place. Yeah. It's because they would report what they see. And whatever it was just Palestinian journalists who they did their best to murder every single one. No war in history has ever killed so many journalists.
No.
Ever. And the only journalists that are allowed in there now are embedded with the IDF, and there are precious few of those. And the reason is it's about control. It's about control of the flow of information, control of what you're allowed to see. And if you control the information, you can try to control the narrative, and you can get people to echo your talking points about crisis actors and about the IDF don't kill children. The IDF do not deliberately target ambulance workers. The IDF don't deliberately bomb hospitals and schools, and they've never done any of that. The most fucking moral army in the world, obviously.
But the problem is there are ex-IDF soldiers and current serving IDF soldiers admitting to it. Yeah. And not always out of regret. They boast and brag about these things.
Yeah.
The numbers, people deny the numbers, but you can get those same numbers from the Israeli side as well, because they announce it with pride. And yes, you're right, the news is biased in the West, and it's all biased pro-Israel. The news is never biased the other way. The bias is pro-Israel because most of the media outlets are Israeli-owned. And therein lies the problem. But to get back to my point, yes, they spell Mossad wrong. or they were spelling it wrong when they're saying Moscow, because that is how insane it is. But it all goes back to Epstein. It all goes back to Israel, to Mossad, because and somebody said to me earlier in the day, or somebody said on something I clicked into anyway earlier in the day, that it was you don't it was actually breakfast this morning, I read it, and they said, but you're they say Russia's not in the files, or that they say I don't know, but they said, but Russia's in the file, or it is in the files, as is Israel. They're both in there. They're both connected. And to try and say it's one and not the other is to be biased. I said, yeah, but there's a big difference between being in the files and every state's in the files, because like I was trying to show on Tuesday, and I've run out of time to go through it and to get my entire point across, and I may still do a part 2 to that, is that there's a geopolitical networking and analysis side to the files beyond the horrors and the atrocious things that happened to kids, which in some ways are almost to their attitude an afterthought, because it is in many ways the world's biggest honey trap. It is in many ways a case of getting people, as I try to say, we're calling it pillar talk, getting people into their comfort zone so they spill their secrets. But it's not a case of them both being in there. Russia's in the files in the geopolitical analysis sense, and only in the geopolitical analysis sense. Israel is behind the files, not Moscow. We're not buying it. And the majority of people in the comments are not buying it. To every government paper and media post that goes out, there are 90%, maybe 95% or 99% of the comments saying, I think you spelt Mossad wrong, or I think you're in it's funny how Moscow's now in Tel Aviv, and all these sorts of comments over and over. But it all does come in many ways back to the Epstein files, which nobody has still been charged with, and very few people have been let go or even lost their jobs over. But there will always be people that they do, like Andrew in many ways, don't mind throwing under the bus. There will always be the odd sacrificial lamb.
Okay. And speaking of, thank you very much. I knew we were going there. And speaking of sacrificial lambs, today we get the news that Keir Starmer's chief of staff, a man called Morgan McSweeney, has resigned. And if you don't know who Morgan McSweeney is, and let's face it, half of these people we never see, you don't hear about. Here he is. Here's Morgan McSweeney at slide 1. And there he is, Morgan McSweeney, who is of Irish descent, but who trained in Israel. His political career was kind of crafted in Israel before he came into the sort of Labour orbit. But anyway, he's resigned over the appointment of Peter Mandelson, as we know, which is a great scandal that is now that's come out of the Epstein files, and is now rocking Britain and rocking our government, and particularly Keir Starmer. Well, it appears to me that McSweeney has taken one for the team. He's, as I say, he's resigned over the controversy of the appointment of Peter Mandelson as the ambassador to the United States. Over, obviously, which Keir Starmer's facing this political storm. And obviously there are calls for Starmer's resignation. Starmer, of course, appointed Mandelson back in 2024, and he did so against the advice of many of his cabinet. And McSweeney has said that he he alone takes full responsibility for advising Starmer to what is essentially Britain's most important diplomatic post. Slide 2, please, Alex. But, and this is really a big but, and it should be an obvious but, is this a case of Starmer offering up a sacrificial lamb, or you might say a scapegoat, to save his own neck? Well, there's no doubt that the chief of staff is a very influential role. And as chief of staff, McSweeney would have been Starmer's chief advisor, as well as, chief of staff does quite a few things. They manage the communications between Number 10 and other government departments and other officials. So it's quite an important role. But can McSweeney be held totally responsible for Mandelson's appointment? Because Starmer was well aware. He was well aware of Mandelson's history and of the scandals that were already surrounding this man. Starmer was aware of Mandelson's first 2 resignations from the UK cabinet. Firstly, he resigned in 1998 over an undeclared loan of nearly £400,000, which he actually got from a man who his department was actually investigating for fraud. And that seems to have gone away after this payment. And that was the scandal that enveloped him in 1998. And then again in 2001, he was allowed back into the fold. And in 2001, he had to resign again over his intervention in what you might call the citizenship application of this man here at slide 3. This is Sir Chand Hindua. Now he's an Indian billionaire, him and his brother. And Mandelson resigned because in exchange for £1 million, which was promised in sponsorship for the Millennium Dome, Hindua and I don't think his brother actually was allowed to gain British citizenship. Now, he'd been living in Britain since 1979, but he'd actually been denied citizenship in 1990 because of his involvement in a long-running corruption case involving an arms company and the Indian government. But shortly after this payment was made, Hindua was granted UK citizenship. But Mandelson's resignation was fairly short-lived, actually, because later on in the same year, he was cleared of all wrongdoing, and then he was by a tribunal, basically, and he was then returned to office. He got another job as the EU Trade Commissioner, and that's one of the most powerful roles in the EU. And Mandelson stayed in that role until being made a Lord, which we can see him here being made a Lord at slide 4. And he was made a Lord by his very good friend, Gordon Brown, in 2008. And he was then installed as a life peer, whilst also serving as business secretary to Brown as well, which is, a kind of clash, because you're not supposed to be able to. I'm not sure he could enter the House of Commons, much like who was it? Who was the Lord, but was on the previous former Prime Minister? What's his name? Cameron. Yeah. Well, when Cameron was a Lord, he wasn't allowed to speak in the House of Commons because he was a Lord. So I would assume that Mandelson, in his role as business secretary, wasn't allowed to speak in the Commons. But he was another one of these people who was serving both roles. And here we can see at slide 5 him walking up the street to number 10 with Gordon Brown. There he is. Okay. And he stayed as business secretary until 2010, when Labour were defeated and put out of office. And then Mandelson started his own lobbying firm called Global Control or Global Council. That was what it was called. Sorry, slip of the tongue. Global Council. He started a lobbying firm called Global Council. But he remained active in politics and was actually an advisor to Keir Starmer, even before Labour's victory in 2024. And once in office, obviously, Starmer wasted no time, and he appointed his friend as advisor. He gave him this plum ambassador's job. Now, we're also aware, we know that Starmer knew about a $4,000 a month payment that were being paid to Peter Mandelson's husband. Every month he was getting $4,000 from Jeffrey Epstein. And also Mandelson, he knew about Mandelson's close ties with Epstein, and he knew that Mandelson had been living in Epstein's New York property whilst Epstein was in prison for soliciting sex from a minor. We knew that he knew that. And even prior to Mandelson's appointment, Starmer knew, because the security services told him, that Mandelson was known to have sold confidential government information to Epstein on 3 separate occasions, and each time he received $25,000 for doing so. So, Morgan McSweeney's resignation, although probably justified, because, on the grounds that he advised Starmer to appoint Mandelson, this in no way should detract from the fact that Starmer. Do we have slide 6? I missed that one, I think. What was slide 6?
Sorry, mouse is dying. There we go.
Oh yeah, that's Mandelson. I'm not sure whose birthday it is. It looks like it's probably Epstein's. It doesn't detract from the fact that Starmer was fully aware. He was fully aware of Mandelson's activities. He was fully aware that Mandelson was known as the Prince of Darkness, that he had very what you might call a very loose idea of what constituted national sovereignty, of what was and was not for sale, basically. And Mandelson was always definitely for sale, it seems. Starmer knew all of this before he appointed him. And in the end, let's be truthful, in the end, the book stops with Starmer. He is the head honcho. He is the prime minister. It was Starmer who appointed Mandelson. It may have come on advice, but as I say, Starmer was very well aware of Mandelson's past. He was very aware of what was going on. He knew he'd received payments from Epstein. He knew he was a very close confidant of Epstein's, a very close friend, and yet he still appointed him. And in the end, like I said, the book stops with Starmer. He was ultimately responsible, and absolutely no amount of people supposedly throwing themselves under a bus should detract from that fact. And I'll end on this slide. Slide 7, please, Alex. Remember your friend, when your friend throws you under the bus, it wasn't the bus's fault. And never get that close to your friend again. Okay. Now, Starmer seems to have allied himself with some very shady people. I don't know how many times Starmer's name appears in the Epstein files, but no doubt we will find out. I know he's in there, but most people are in there. But who is most definitely in there, and who's a regular visitor, and who was receiving money from Epstein, was Mandelson. And so Starmer was obviously aware of these things. He cannot plead ignorance. He cannot say I was badly advised, because he was advised against it over and over and over again by various members of the cabinet, and even the security services said, don't do this. But yet he went ahead and did it. So the book stops with Starmer as far as I can see. And I sincerely hope that he will do the gentlemanly thing, which I wouldn't expect of him, but he will do the right thing and say, it's time for me to go. Okay. That's basically a look at that.
Yeah. I'm going to say it now. Don't decide that you're not going to cut your beard until Starmer resigns, because it is going to be longer than it was before.
No, I wouldn't do anything for that man. I wouldn't decide anything on the grounds that Keir Starmer would do that, because
nothing
it's
relying
not
on
in
having
his
a conscience anyway. No, it's
not. I you know, how many people have to go under the bus before people realize that that's what's happening? And to me, even though McSweeney was an obvious Zionist, he was obviously biased in favor of that whole thing. I don't know his connections with, if he had any connections with Mandelson, if he had any connections with Epstein himself, where his role was in that whole of. I'm unaware. Oh dear. Right. Okay, we're back. I disappeared there for a minute. What his role was, what he knew, what he didn't know. It is known, and he has admitted that he did advise Starmer to take Mandelson on yet again. But as I say, Starmer cannot plead ignorance. He cannot plead ignorance. He cannot say, the big boys told me to do it and ran away. He cannot say that, because he knew all about Mandelson. And Mandelson has a legacy of betrayal over, 4 prime ministers. You know, and I would just like to know what this man has over these people. How come he can get away with shit and then just be brought back home like the prodigal son again and again and again? I strongly suspect, well, and this is my opinion, that Mandelson was taking a leaf out of Epstein's book in some way, or that there was some evidence against certain people. Now, I did find out tonight about an accusation of what you might call a threesome taking place between a British Prime Minister, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know a lot of details about that, but that is apparently something that's out there. But I wouldn't like to say which Prime Minister it was. And there are some that I wouldn't like to imagine in that situation anyway. But
you mean there are some you would like to imagine in that situation?
No, but they're just definitely some I wouldn't. I couldn't imagine, I don't know, Liz Truss in that situation. Or, well, yeah, I can tell you who the hints were, and it was someone who kind of has wild blondie floppy hair, and that's, you might work that one out for yourself. So that was the insinuation anyway. But whether, I don't know.
I can see it. Well, I don't want to see it particularly, but I can.
Yeah, and also someone who probably didn't have that high morals. So yeah, but I just find it.
Some of them have got high morals.
No, but some of them have lower morals than the low standard. There are. You keep trying to trap me into admitting that any of our political class have any morals. No, I don't believe any of them do. I just think that of the known morals that some of them have have less than nothing. So negative morals.
Nothing. Yeah, no, I'm only joking, but and it's not really a joking matter. But
they're not.
It is nothing funny, and I'm not trying to make light of the horrors.
No.
I think the only thing you've got to laugh at is the insanity that the world now knows that everything we've said is right and still doesn't see the need to act on it.
No.
We'll still let the people guilty of the crimes decide on the outcome of the crimes, because they're all in it. They're all involved. And even if you find, and I've not been, the problem is with 3 million files, and that's deliberate. Nobody can go through them all by now. No one's gone through them all by now, personally. Somebody might have sent AI through them, but then you're still relying on what AI tells you. Nobody's had time to read 3 million documents, I would swear to that. And you're never going to know entirely till you can read 3,000 documents. But whether they're in there in a manner that immediately suggests wrongdoing, or whether they just prove their complicity by putting someone like Mandelson into a position of power when he's been given chance after chance and he's in there to that many times, and you knew there was a connection. He was living if you say he was living in the guy's house while the guy was in jail the first time, that kind of proves that. It's not, you can't say, oh, well, they only knew him before anything was known. Because if the guy was in jail and he was living in his house at that stage, then he kind of knew. But I think there are people all through those files that you're seeing already that were the manipulators, that were the nudgers. I don't think nudger is a word, but it is now. I've decided it is now. Were the people that were nudging others. And they're usually the ones in correspondence with Epstein, and they're telling him about the situation, and they're being used to not just report on it, but to nudge the situation. And it's looking increasingly like Mandelson was one of them. And if you're telling me, and I've not really looked back into all of it, but if you're telling me he was in that position effectively with 4 separate prime ministers, then that says it all really to me, because he's been put in that position to guide, to nudge, to lead the world, to lead their choices and their decisions the way, well, that the octopus wanted it to go.
Yeah. It's a tentacle that had reached into the British political system, one of many, I suspect. And it was being used to manipulate our decisions. Mandelson had so many jobs. I mean, he was Northern Ireland secretary at one time. He was, like I say, he was business secretary. He was he had a job in the EU. He had a lot of important roles. He was given a lot of important roles by different, Labour prime ministers, but different Labour prime ministers. And he certainly had the ear of Keir Starmer. He had the ear of Keir Starmer prior to Keir Starmer being elected. He was there advising him, possibly even in the way that he actually came to the top of the Labour Party. I suspect he might have been steered by Mandelson in some respect into gaining that, becoming leader, in the way that perhaps Jeremy Corbyn was dispensed with. I suspect he may have had something to do with that, because that was an Israeli engineered coup, basically.
Yeah.
The whole anti-Semitism thing, the whole purge was driven, and obviously, if you were doing that on behalf of people, people allowing you to get and feeding you information and all that sort of stuff, there is always a price to be paid. So perhaps Mandelson's price was the ambassadorship, which was a good fit with Trump, because Trump's in the Epstein files a bloody shit ton of times. So perhaps, that was kind of a good fit for him. Now, I don't know what his relationship with Trump was. I don't know how many times he met Trump, whether Trump liked him. I'm not sure he did, actually. But they certainly had Epstein in common, as a lot of people had. Epstein was the spider of the web, wasn't he? So, there you go. But hopefully he won't. As I say, I saw his resignation as one of those resignations that just crop up. All of a sudden, a senior figure is accused of something, and someone slightly junior from them takes the rap and said, "I'm sorry, Gov, it was all me. It's a fair cop. I done it." This is not the case. Starmer's in the frame, and I hope he sinks with that frame to some dark, dingy corner infested by Tony Blair, probably.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh,
it's insanity.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
Where are we going next? Let's lighten it up.
Well, I think we'll go to your Groundhog Day one.
Oh, yeah, that's a bit.
I don't know whether that's lightening it up or not, really.
No, well, yeah, it's not a political story. It's not a story about war. It's not a story about anyone. Well, there might be some exploitation in it, but it's not exactly bad exploitation. So now, if you're American, you're probably very familiar with this story, and quite a lot of people around the world are familiar with this now because of a 1982 film that came out called Groundhog Day. And so I've been having a look at a tradition, this tradition that takes place every year on the 2nd of February. Slide 1, please, Alex. And that is the tradition of Groundhog Day. Now, this ceremony, you might say, has been taking place in the oddly named spot of Gobbler's Knob in the Pennsylvanian town of Punxsutawney. So that is where the ceremony takes place. It's a sort of a small hillock, sort of called Gobbler's Knob. but it's in Punxsutawney, which is in Pennsylvania. And this has been going on for the past 140 years, and it's now attended by thousands of people. Come to see this every year, and they all come along to see this famous groundhog, Punxsutawney Phil. We can see him again here at slide 2. Oh no, I think these are the crowds who gathered. There we go. And this year, 2026, there are an estimated 50,000 people turned up to see Punxsutawney Phil, who is obviously Punxsutawney Phil is a groundhog. And they turn up to see if he will decide if winter is over or will last another 6 weeks. Now, the whole story is that if Phil can see his own shadow, then winter will last another 6 weeks. And this ceremony takes place in the first light at dawn, basically, on the 2nd of February. And if it's, I would suppose, if it's a clear day, then the sun would be out and Phil would see his shadow. But that would mean that the weather is going to stay cold for another 6 weeks. And if he doesn't see a shadow, then winter is over. Now, obviously, Phil can't communicate this himself. He's a groundhog, isn't he? And here's an actual groundhog at slide 3. There, that's an actual groundhog, which is also known as a woodchuck. We don't actually know how much wood a woodchuck can chuck, but if a woodchuck could chuck wood, then that would be a definite, mathematical number. But we don't. And a woodchuck, a groundhog, is a burrowing rodent of the marmot family, not to be confused with the haggis, which is a completely different creature. Okay, and this creature is common to right across to North America, basically. But as I said, Phil can't exactly tell you himself, so Phil's decision is interpreted by his handler. Slide 4, please, Alex. And Phil, like many politicians, has a handler who interpret his decision for him. And here's Phil's handler. Now, these handlers are members of the Groundhog Club, but it's only the 15 inner circle who can participate in this ceremony. And this ceremony is only one of 2 that take place every year involving Phil, the groundhog. And the other is the Groundhog Picnic, which takes place in the summer, obviously. And this is where Phil drinks a secret concoction called the elixir of life. And this is more and more turning into a secret society, basically, isn't it? So this ceremony that takes place at the picnic, Phil drinks this liquid called the elixir of life, and the recipe for this liquid is passed down from handler to handler. And the story goes that for every sip Phil takes of this magic liquid, another 7 years are added to his life. And that's why the club always claims that there has only ever been one Phil for 140 years. Okay. Now, this year, as I said, around 50,000 people from all over the world turned up and gathered in the dawn lights. And this year, the temperature was about -3. So, you've got to be a pretty big Phil fan to stand around waiting for this groundhog to come out in -3 temperatures. And this year it was pronounced. I didn't mention the magic cane. There is a magic cane that the handler uses to interpret Phil's wriggles and squeaks, and that allows the handler to speak groundhog. And so through the use of the magic cane, Phil's message can be broadcast. And this year, Phil saw his shadow, which means another 6 more weeks of winter. Now, in the past 6 out of the past 10 years, it's been this way. It's 6 out of, there's been another 6 weeks of winter 6 times out of the last 10 years. And the only exceptions were 2016, 2019, 20 and 24, where slide 6, please, Alex, where Phil predicted an early spring. So unfortunately, no early spring this year because Phil says there's going to be at least another 6 years of winter. Okay, so that was the story of Groundhog Day. Nothing to do with a man reliving his day over and over and over again, who was Bill Murray, I believe. But Bill Murray is probably one of the people, that film is probably one of the things that drew this whole sort of bizarre ceremony into the spotlight. And that's why now, I'll say this year, 50,000 people turned up to see what this magic groundhog would say. Okay. Now, I don't expect to comment much on that. What can you say? But it is what it is.
Just to say to Susan, the first thing I said to Glenn before the show is it looks like a haggis.
Oh. Well, that's why I included that bit, not to be confused with the haggis, which, as far as we know, have no weather predicting ability, and there is no magic haggis. Whether there used to be, and this is why people who emigrated to America took this idea with them, but it died out in Scotland. I should think in Scotland it probably got quite boring because it's always going to be another 6 weeks of winter at this time of year.
And in summer.
And in the summer. Yeah.
Autumn.
Yeah.
Winter.
It's mostly winter. Yeah. But I don't know. But it's a bit of fun. And there is on Gobbler's Knob, there is actually a where Phil lives permanently, there is a groundhog sort of attraction, and you can go and see him and his little family and any offspring, because he does have mating privileges, and every so often produce there are baby groundhogs, none of which are obviously used to replace Phil because Phil never dies. But I just like the idea of this sort of secret society of men in top hats wielding a groundhog, groundhog, and having a magic cane that gives them the ability to understand what he says.
Yeah. And
I just like the word, and they use the word in reports about it. I just like the word handler. Yeah. I like the fact that what his intentions are interpreted by a handler. And so when I sort of said, there's no political element to this, I thought, well, perhaps there is. It kind of works the way our politicians work, in that they have handlers who interpret their intentions for them. So there you go. Anyway, that's Groundhog Day.
True. And though we may question the likelihood of the magic cane that enables them to know what the groundhog's thinking, or whether his shadow's presence really can predict the weather, but as far as I know, at least, and I might be very wrong, the actual occurrence and the actual ceremony and all that is legit, as far as I know. I don't think Glenn's just made them up.
I have not made that up. Go and look it up.
Yeah.
It's in Punxsutawney, and it takes place every year on the 2nd of February. It's in Philadelphia, is it? Yeah, Philadelphia. And it's been going on for 140 years. And it's actually thought that it's nothing to do with it being taken by Scottish people talking about haggis. It's actually thought to come from observations that were passed down by Native Americans, and that the idea that this ground dwelling squirrel, or big groundhog, big thing, actually will wake up, because they hibernate, will wake up and come out of its burrow to see what it's like. And if it stays out of its burrow, then the assumption is that there's going to be an early spring. And it's reasonably accurate, actually. Because I'm that kind of guy, I went up and looked up the entire history of his predictions. And he has been wrong on about 6 occasions. But that's not a bad record over 140 years. That prediction is mostly been right. So there you go.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I can't remember what the next one is, because I was going to do your third one next.
Oh, well, I can do the next one. Yeah. This again is it's not what you might call, again, it's not a serious topic, except to the people who are involved in it, except to the people for whom, let's say, the people who are trying to push the envelope, the people who are looking to gain an advantage, and you'll kind of understand that as I go along, because I titled this little piece "CROTCHGATE." Okay, and this is a story about the Winter Olympics. Now, the Winter Olympics began on Friday. And we touched a little bit on the opening ceremony. We just sort of happened to mention it in passing, in that yet again, many people interpreted the opening ceremony as having satanic overtones, let's say. But that opening ceremony took place at the San Siro Stadium in Milan, in Italy. Which we can see just a slide from the ceremony here at slide 1. There we go. There's some people doing whatever these bizarre ceremonies are about. And this year's ceremony was the longest ever, actually, lasting 3 hours. And it was all based supposedly around a theme of harmony. That was the official explanation. But the Winter Olympics are already mired by controversy, in disharmony. And one of these controversies has been dubbed CROTCHGATE. And this comes amid allegations. Slide 2, please, Alex. Okay, there's a ski jumper. It comes amid allegations that ski jumpers have been injecting an acid-based serum into their genitalia to artificially increase the size. Now, why would they want to do that? Okay. Well, athletes have always tried to find various ways to give them just that little bit more competitive edge. And back in January, the German newspaper Bild, they reported that some ski jumpers had been injecting hyaluronic acid slide 3, please, Alex. And there's some hyaluronic acid. They'd been injecting this stuff into their penises to artificially increase the size. Now, hyaluronic acid is also used in treating joint pain and also as a skin plumper in beauty treatments. And it was this plumping effect that the athletes were actually after, because they were using it in order to have the crotch measurements of their really quite close fitting suits. They were using it to make sure that those suits were slightly larger in the crotch area than they would have been had they not been plumping themselves up. Okay. And the reason for this is that it increases the surface area of the crotch. And supposedly, this means a slight increase in the distance of their jumps, because somehow the surface aerodynamics of the crotch area being slightly baggier would add fractions of a meter to their recorded jumps because of the kind of air effect as they skim through. All right, perhaps a slightly more lift gained as they sail through, and that lengthens their jump slightly. And this actually was reported to the WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency, and their director, a man called Oliver Nigley, announced on Thursday that they brought in new rules and suit inspections. They're bringing in suit inspections before events. Slide 4, please, Alex. And before events, athletes will be given a 3D scan to evaluate the shape of their suit, and then another one afterwards. But also, before they're allowed to wear the suit, the suits will be fitted with microchips, which will monitor the distance in between areas of the suit, ensuring that no lowering of the crotch in order to provide more surface area has taken place. And these chips will supposedly be tamper-proof microchips. So we're getting pretty high tech here in order to prevent crotch enlargement or any other form of messing with the suit. And then the scanners will be able to tell before and after the jump to make sure that the suit is the same. Now, these regulations are adding to even more stringent regulations that were brought in last year when the Norwegian ski jumping team were found to be adding extra stitching to the crotch area during the World Championships. And so just a word of warning for anyone who's considering doing this, you're going to get caught. So please don't start injecting your genitalia with hyaluronic acid in order to plump it up just to gain a few inches. A tiny amount in the length that you're allowed now I'm getting this wrong, in the distance, that you can travel whilst ski jumping. Okay. Now, I've only ever done ski jumping once, and that was when we actually broke into a ski resort and went down on a beer tray. And I wouldn't like to tell you that we got any distance. it was more of a terrified plummet. Luckily, I survived to tell you the tale. But don't go doing this. It just, the length that people will go to in order to cheat or to try and, you know, to try to add that little bit extra seems, I don't know, is this really sporting? Is it, you know, I don't know. Why can't people just do things in a natural way, and then everybody be happy? Well, there you go. That's the state of modern sport, let's say. Okay.
Oh, you have one more slide.
Oh, I did, yeah. That was just another ski jumper, you know, in a natural pose for ski jumpers. You know, just to show you that particular suit didn't seem to have a great deal of crotch enlargement. So there we go. But this is a genuine story. This is a genuine story and of genuine concern to people in the, you know, in that area of sport. There was another controversy actually that's still happening, in which there's a court case involved, in which the British bobsleigh team, I think it's in the skeleton bob, have been accused of altering their helmet by a very small amount in order to add slightly more speed. And this, but I thought, well, that's not as interesting as injecting your crotch with hyaluronic acid, you know, which seems an extreme thing to do. So that's why I thought I'd report on that one. So.
It just seems like a load of bollocks to me.
The lengths some people will go to.
But I don't get it, because to me, the smoother the suit was, that would give you more aerodynamic lift. Surely.
Yeah, but I think it's the sort of
bigger bulge in the suit.
I don't know if it's something to do with the surface area, because obviously you're going like that through the air, and the more lift you can get, the further you can travel. So if you can actually improve, you know, sort of slightly extend the area of the surface area of the suit, I would assume you might get more lift. I don't know.
So many questions, because if you've got one competitor that's 6'4" and one competitor that's 5'9", that makes a hell of a lot more difference than whether someone puts an extra few mil on the size area of their crotch.
I don't, you know, I'm not a sports scientist, Alex.
No,
I don't understand this. I don't even know if there are sort of like height and weight categories that you can. I mean, the only ski jumper Britain ever produced was Eddie the Eagle.
Yeah. Who wasn't really worried too much about the distance.
No, he really didn't care. He was more of a cult figure. I don't think we've ever performed well in ski jumping as a nation. It's more of a Nordic sort of area. But I mean, we're pretty good at bobsleigh and skeleton bob and things like that. I think we do quite well in that. But I just don't like the idea of winter sports anyway.
No. I don't know. I've got to. I really, because I'm now thinking winter sports being the point. Maybe the difference between the suit and the body has more to do with the temperature than anything else.
That's exactly where I was just going with it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, probably. I don't know how it affects female ski jumpers, but
that was the other thing I thought, because have we now a genuinely definable reason why just calling yourself a woman to take part in the woman's sport would give you an unfair advantage because you have a larger area in the crotch area?
Yeah. transgender ski
Or
jumpers.
would the fact that you don't have a larger area in the bosom area contradict and give the woman an advantage for once?
You know,
Or the cis
whole
woman, as they want us to call ourselves.
fascinating, really, isn't it? I mean, that's the aerodynamics of ski jumpers. On the whole, you don't see many large-chested ski jumpers, do you?
I've really never studied the general build.
Well, there you go. That'll give you something to do. I'm sure you'll be now watching the Winter Olympics with an eagle eye to see if you can detect anything like that. I won't be
used to watch Ski Sunday at one point.
Oh, that used to be on,
because it used to come on in that same slot that you always had things like the A Team and Robin and Sherwood in the day, and it was always between tea and because we used to go to the evening service and we used to have choir practice before that. It used to be between tea and choir practice, so you used to watch the start of Ski Sunday and one point one of the canoeing programs. They were always in that.
Oh, yeah. There used to be a canoeing one, didn't they? Yeah, where they went down this course. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that one as well. I think they'll try it. Both of them were 100% more interesting than snooker, which I could never. Oh, Jesus, snooker. What are people seeing it? But I suppose because it was a
play, but it's not really a viewer sport, in my opinion. But then same with darts. I don't understand watching darts.
Yeah,
play it by all means, but watching it.
It used to be sort of people who, you see, again, it was slightly less professional at one time because it used to be sort of people who got good at darts through going to the pub and playing darts, and so you had quite. I mean, it was never an athletic sport, darts, really, was it? But so you got quite chunky people playing darts. And I always remember that you might not remember the sketch. There was a not the 9 o'clock news sketch where there was two players and they were going. They said, "Oh, okay, this is I can't remember his name." Comes up to the hockey, and he'd gone for a single pint, and it was like they didn't actually. Oh, he's got a double. That looks like a whiskey, and it was that, and so. They were doing that. If anybody remembers that sketch, so it was kind of a bit like snooker. It was associated with more with clubs and pubs. Although snooker tended to take place in snooker halls, most pubs would have a pool table, but snooker tables are bloody enormous. So there weren't normally that many snooker tables. But they were sports that people could associate with. And may have played whereas canoeing and I don't know, downhill skiing, not normally. They're not normal. I mean, some people obviously go canoeing or kayaking or whatever, but not a lot of people do. I don't know, whitewater canoeing as a hobby in general. So. Nor ski jumping for that matter. So
no.
No. All right. So they were the kind that was the what you might call the light fluffy filling in the middle of what is normally a grim slog through the mire and the excrement of politics and news. So I just thought I'd chuck those in to lighten the mood a bit.
Fair enough. My last one is kind of it's not entirely light, but it's one of those weird stories that I've said before. I get every now and again I get hit by a story. Well, okay, what's really going on here, or watch this space sort of scenario, and this is kind of one of them. Because it's the story of a Wizz Air plane that basically ended up getting itself escorted by Israeli fighter jets into Ben Gurion Airport. Now, it actually was going from London to Ben Gurion, And so the story reports it. It was Israeli fighter jets ended up being scrambled to intercept a Wizz Air flight from London to Tel Aviv after threatening messages were sent to passengers. Now, what it tells us is that at least one passenger received an unusual message that raised fears about an attempt to harm the aircraft. The crew informed the control tower at Ben Gurion Airport, and they sent fighter jets to escort the plane. The airplane landed safely in Israel before security personnel checked all passengers. Now, and this is where I find it quite interesting, because it says the authorities believe a passenger changed a Wi-Fi account to terrorist and sent threatening messages to other passengers. Due to a suspicion of suspicious behaviour on the plane, security forces acted according to the procedure for such a case. The incident ended, the plane landed, and it was found that there was no actual incident. So if we're to believe the official story, somebody on the plane changed, and this is the thing, what do they mean by change the Wi-Fi account to terrorist? Because if you send a message, it wouldn't give you the name of the Wi-Fi account. People wouldn't be on your Wi-Fi account, or did they? Did they set up? I'm in the hotel today, and I'm piggybacking my laptop on my phone Wi-Fi. Did they change their phone Wi-Fi to terrorist? And did several other people on the plane log into their phone Wi-Fi hotspot, rename terrorist, to receive these messages? Or if they were email or general messages, how did they get the address of other people on the plane? It doesn't quite tally with normal. It doesn't quite tally with normal scenarios. So what are they implying? And I mean, I'm sure we've all done that in time. You change the change your Wi-Fi name to whatever, GCHQ listening post or things like this all throughout the and I've literally been down the M6 and I've gone through a network that said it was COVID-19 free 5G tower or something.
Wow.
Now, I never worked out whether that's somebody's idea of being funny, or whether that was somebody on the coach did it or what, but it seemed to go just in a certain area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are cases up, but when you log on to somebody's Wi-Fi, you might know the name of the Wi-Fi, but you'd have to be logging onto somebody else's Wi-Fi. And who sits on a plane and logs onto a Wi-Fi that says terrorist? And if you get an email, you don't get an email from a Wi-Fi. You'd get it from the phone or from the address it's being sent from.
Yeah.
I mean, I do get it. There's always been the standing joke about somebody calling to their mate Jack, which is why I called it Hi Jack on the thing. Hi Jack, on the middle of a plane, and how it wasn't a good thing to do. And I did once when I was too young to understand and possibly old enough to know better, decide to walk through the Nothing to Claire singing I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts. But which for some reason my parents didn't appreciate. But
no sense of humour, customs people.
Sense of humour.
None.
But
no
I just don't get how you get that situation. And this is it doesn't get explained in the article, but this is the flight path. So when this occurred, did it just start flying round and round in circles until the fighter jets could get to it? Or what?
Yeah, I bet that's the case. I bet that's the case. Put you in a holding pattern until we get there. Yeah. I'm kind of assuming the blue track might be the unescorted flight, and then it turns into the lighter blue track for the escorted flight. I don't know.
Maybe I didn't actually think about
I don't know. I'm just wondering why that, although there's a green, so that might be just phases of, because then it goes green.
Yeah.
I don't know, just phases of the flight. But do you remember back in the day, I mean, I'm talking years ago when Wi-Fi networks, a lot of Wi-Fi networks didn't require a password to get on. And so in the early days, you could log on to your neighbor's Wi-Fi and use their Wi-Fi without having, you didn't have to get your own. But obviously now you can detect, you can look on your phone, it'll tell you Wi-Fi networks detected.
Yeah.
If you then try to get on that Wi-Fi network, it will ask you for a key or a code. And if you don't know it, you can't get on it. So it can't be a personal one. But if the plane or was supplying its own free Wi-Fi during the flight, then you could get onto it.
So maybe somebody hacked onto the plane's Wi-Fi and changed the name.
Because that would be just your personal log on. You would just log on as the color of the line denotes height. Yeah, well, that's a good explanation, Tim. I think that's probably correct. So let's say Wizz Air is providing a free Wi-Fi while you're on the plane. Whether it asks you to give yourself a username while you're on this, I'm gonna call myself what was the name? Terrorist. Yeah. So maybe there's someone monitoring that and picked up, but I still don't know how, like you said, they could then have been threatening other people on that network, unless it's a shared kind of chat room that they've got that you can be in when you're on it. I don't know. I don't know.
And do they really fit in? If it was the person's individual account, is somebody genuinely threatening to take a plane down, going to log on to the account as terrorists?
Well, they're saying, yeah, I'm there. Where are you? Seat 7B. Yeah. Here I am, terrorist. So I'm wondering if did the story follow up and said that they'd actually arrested anybody, or
no? They said they decided that they examined, I can't remember the word they used, examined the passengers, and they decided that there was no incident.
There wasn't.
But despite them escorting the plane in with fighter jets and stopping it circling in midair, from what Tim said, basically coming down lower and lower, probably in case it got so they were nearer to the ground in case somebody did blow it up. I don't know. And then escorting it in, that doesn't count as an incident anymore because they've now decided there was no incident.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if you say about like combined or like the Wizz Air Wi-Fi, it's sounding a bit like somebody's managed to hack into that Wi-Fi and retitle it terrorist. And if they could do that, maybe then they could control the pop-ups that sent to somebody else logging onto it. I don't know. Maybe those pop-ups or the equivalent.
I would never want to be on a flight where a fighter escort turned up, because there aren't many good outcomes, really. All right, they can just escort you into land, but there's a great those fighters are there to shoot down that plane if it shows any intentions of, I don't know, flying into a building. And they can't stop somebody with a bomb. There's a bomb on that plane, it's going to blow up. Best thing to do is
shooting it.
Yeah, it's the same outcome, isn't it? That's not the. It's a lose outcome. But at least if someone they were thinking someone could take over that plane, then they're there to make sure that in the event that someone does take over that plane, decides to steer it somewhere it's not meant to go, then that gives the option of stopping them. That's just about all.
People on the plane for against a greater number of casualties on the ground.
Sacrifice the plane. Exactly, that's what they do. I've only, I must say that the second well, I considered it the second most thrilling commercial flight I've ever taken. But there were other people on, and this was Wizz Air. I really enjoyed that. We went on a Wizz Air flight to Poland, and the pilot came on. It started getting really bumpy, really turbulent. And the pilot came on and said, we are passing between an area of 3 major thunderstorms. And if you look out your window, you'll be able to see them. And right down below us, it was just a sea of lightning and massive black thunderstorms. And the further they went, the more the plane was bouncing like that, until it came to a point where all the lights went out and we plummeted. Everything went up in the air. We lost gravity slightly. You know, you were like in a lift. And we must have, God knows how far we plummeted before the pilot regained control. And he came on and said, unfortunately, we were struck by lightning and it knocked out the power unit. Well, planes are designed to get struck by lightning anyway. They get struck all the time. But apparently it had knocked out the power, which comes off the engines anyway. But so they temporarily lost power. But I thought that was brilliant because I like turbulence. But there were people crying and clinging to each other, and it was. I'm sitting there. Oh, that was brilliant. Yeah. The only that I won't describe the other one, but that's my only experience on Wizz Air. Strangely named Wizz Air. Yeah. I'm not going to go into that, but it's a strange name.
I'd never heard of them, to be honest, until I read that story.
They used to fly out of our airport, which is just down the road, and you could fly to, I think, Poland and Bulgaria and Romania, sort of Eastern European. I'm not sure it is an Eastern European airline. I didn't know they actually flew to Israel, but they're, you know, like all of them, they expand, don't they? So, but yeah, interesting story that. Which could have had a very different outcome, couldn't it? I mean, you know. But
it just feels like there's a bit more there than we're being told, but maybe just a symptom of the world being on high alert.
Yeah.
And there may be something more in the thing. If they did hack into the Wi-Fi and change the password, it may be the simple fact that they hacked into the Wi-Fi, as in what other systems could they get into? I don't know. It seems a bit weird one, but just found it interesting.
Yeah. We've heard stories about that before, though, haven't we? We've heard stories about basically planes being hacked. I think it was a story Ian was once talking about, maybe a year or more ago, to do with the F-35, wasn't it? That crashed. And several other flights, commercial flights that had got into trouble, and somebody was actually hacking the onboard computers and breaking into the controls and actually causing these planes to come down. So yeah, that aspect's quite worrying.
There seems to be a flurry at one point, which suggests that, especially with some of the planes that are, seem to be moving over to being flown by AI almost. It seemed to be a control being taken in that way. But the further we go on, it makes you wonder now who or what was taking control. And even with this sort of thing, I wonder who or what, whether it was a passenger.
I think in a large way that especially I think it's things like that the parts of the flight that are the sort of the most vulnerable, the takeoff and the landing, have increasingly as the years gone by been taken over by onboard computers, and the plane just flies down the beacon. And knows when to put its landing gear down, when to alter the flaps. And the pilot only really takes control if anything goes wrong, I believe. if, for instance, I mean, even when there's high, say, wind shear, that's all the computer can factor that in and try to compensate for it. And apparently it's better at it than a human. So I think the pilot's there in that situation to take over it if anything goes badly wrong. And therefore the airline can blame pilot error rather than onboard systems. You know?
That's about right.
Being cynical, he said. But yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the same trust in computing or artificial intelligence and people do. I understand the speed of computation can be faster. I understand that argument.
Yeah.
But when you see some of the things claimed by AI, when you see see even stories about people using it, lawyers using it to write their final disposition, and it quoting precedents from cases that never existed, and things like this, you're thinking, and I've caught it out. It's caught it out telling absolute lies. So when you think of all these things, I just don't have the trust in it. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe it is a sign of, maybe I'm a Luddite. I don't know. But it seems to me, but I've always been good. I've always liked technology. Technologies I've always quite liked when technology remains a tool. Into the latest technology, when technology remains a tool of man. When man becomes a tool and the technology becomes the boss, that's when I draw the line. And relying on, even with a faster computational speed, relying on a computer to make the decisions that control life and death, to me, will never be the way to go. I don't like it. I don't trust it.
I watched an interesting, it was a sort of short documentary that involved the American Air Force's experiments with AI, and this was all done in this was all simulations. So it was a series of simulated dogfights, and so they got all these pilots, you know, like the top pilots, like the Top Gun type pilots, Maverick and people like that. You know, they got them and they put them in the simulator and said, "Oh, you're," and they're used to doing this against other pilots. You know, you put them in a simulated dogfight, and the AI just kept winning and winning and winning and winning. And they really basically discovered that the AI would do things that no human pilot would do in order to win. The AI would be prepared to fly directly into the other plane in order to take that plane out, which is not something that a human pilot would do. So. Have you stopped moving, Alex?
No.
I thought you'd stopped moving. I thought you'd frozen.
No.
So in that respect, Kenny, you're just saying there the thought that you might die in a minute or two is quite exciting. It is actually, and that's why people take part in dangerous sports and things like that, because you never feel as alive when you think you might die. I think that's the thing, and I think many people become quite addicted to that feeling of pushing the envelope. But I think a lot of people on aircraft feel quite vulnerable because they have no element of control. You're in someone else's hands. And you know, whether the plane crashes or whether it doesn't isn't really, it's not up to you. You're in the lap of the pilot or in the lap of the gods. So yeah. Okay. Right. What were you said? Oh, okay, no, don't worry about it.
No, it's not. Mine was nothing to do with the comments on screen.
Right, okay, that's all right. Yeah, so that it was an interesting story, and maybe one that we might never really get to the bottom of. So yeah, but it's a lot to do with Israel's sense of vulnerability, I think. They're feeling very threatened.
Yeah.
Right, and rightly so, as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah, well, they're threatening the rest of the Western world at the moment for not doing what they want or daring to accept the acknowledgement.
Oh yeah.
And while humanity can, humanity exists, then I say that anybody has the right to discuss what's going on in Gaza, just in case people are still listening, and they have the right to say that, to say their views and their opinions on it. And if you don't like hearing that, then you're welcome to fuck off, and you don't need to be. It's not in the comments. You won't see it.
No, I didn't see it. No.
You won't see it because it's not. It's in Rumble.
Right. It's in the Rumble.
If you don't like it, simple. Don't listen.
Yeah, exactly. Go and listen to some other fuckwit who will tell you that none of this happened and it was all a joke and it was all made up and all the lies that the Hasbara that Israel pumps out.
Yeah, and if you're falling for that, you're the dumb bitch, I'm afraid. So if you're falling for that crap, that says it all, really. And there's a considerable problem with the whole vax and how many people that it did kill. But if you can't see that we've moved beyond that and you're still stuck fighting yesterday's battle, which we should have been fighting 5 years ago, and some of us were fighting 5 years ago, if you can't see that time's moved on and there are bigger problems than that, then I'm sorry, you're not awake. Don't even pretend you are, and don't even pretend you care. And like I said, no one's bringing you here. No one's making you stay here. And no one cares if you don't listen. So please, fuck it off.
Yeah, I'm taking that opinion. Okay. Well,
if you don't log on under your real names and you can't even admit your real names, even though I recognize at least one of you, then you can fuck it off too. Anyway, on that note, for the people on Facebook and on YouTube that are genuinely listening, let's not completely lose the thread. And it's pretty much the end of our topics for tonight. But do we have anything else we want to cover before we go, or?
Just on a related note, I think actually Ian put on a personal page. He put that Netanyahu is now saying that Iran could really has the capability to strike the US, and that this is a real possibility. To be honest, I don't think that is something, if you are in America, you need be worried about. If Iran has any nuclear weapons, then it's most likely that those nuclear weapons would be used to respond to a nuclear attack by Israel. America has nothing to worry about in that respect. It does not need to worry about Iranian terrorism, to be honest. Iran has been painted so black as the nexus of terrorism, when in fact, if you look into who sponsors terrorism, if you look into who's funded money into Al Qaeda, if you look at who's funneled money into ISIS, you will find it's the very agencies that accuse them of terrorism. It's the CIA, it's Mossad, it's the Israelis, it's the Saudis, and it's the Americans, and it's the British as well. We have all sponsored terrorism.
Yeah.
And we've made sure that they are there. And what we have done is made sure that they are a credible enemy. And that's what's been done to every country that the West wants to attack. We first turn them into monsters, and then we say we must fight the monster. And that is it's such an old tactic.
We send in and train up our own monsters. We create the monsters, and then we attack the country and the people of the country and the anybody that we don't want in that position of power under the excuse of attacking the enemy. Exactly. We did it in Syria. We couldn't get the parliament to sign off on attacking Syria, so we got parliament to sign off on attacking ISIS in Syria.
Yeah.
But we created it in the first place.
Exactly. ISIS would never have been the force that they were if they weren't so heavily funded by Western powers and by Israel. The same was the same case in Iraq. In fact, there was a plan after the second Iraq War to pivot immediately on Iran. That's how long that the desire to attack Iran has been going on. That's how many years. Let's take Netanyahu. How many years has Netanyahu been saying that Iran is within a fortnight of developing a nuclear weapon? 20 years? Maybe, I would say. I always think of that famous sort of bomb, the picture that he put. How he gets away with presenting this shit at the UN, I have no idea. You turn up at the UN, oh yeah, this is what Israel's going to look like, and there's no Saudi Arabia, and there's half of Egypt.
Then you're talking about somebody who ripped up the UN Constitution at the UN.
Of the UN and threw it at the delegates. So that's what we think of the UN Constitution. Yeah. How the hell they're even members of the UN? Well, I do know why they're still members of the UN, but in all reasonableness, they should have been booted out years ago. They are a terrorist state, as far as I can see, who abide by no laws. And I put a post about this on the other day. The comparison between Iran and Israel in terms of nuclear. It wasn't Israel who stole nuclear material from America. It wasn't Israel who killed a president. It wasn't Iran who killed a president because they wanted to impose inspections on their nuclear facilities. It wasn't Iran who refused to have their nuclear capabilities inspected under international agreements, which they never have been. All of these things, if you take them into account, Iran has done nothing but comply with the International Atomic Energy Agency. It allowed the inspections to go on for years and years and years. Israel has never done that. Never allowed inspections of its nuclear facilities, never discloses how many weapons it has never agreed to any of the nuclear, not disarmament, but nuclear restricting treaties, the international test ban, none of it. It's never agreed to any of it. And yet it calls other countries a danger, a nuclear danger to the world, when I think that the most enormous and prescient threat to the whole of the Middle East in nuclear terms is Israel. So who we call a terrorist is very selective, perhaps.
Yeah. Very much.
That's
so.
where I'll end
Very
on
much.
that.
And I think, that is a point to end on in many ways.
No.
but it's Sunday evening now, so I'll be back at Tuesday at 9 p.m. with Gleam in the North. Ian will be back on Wednesday at 7 p.m. with Smokem. Glenn will be back on Friday at 7:30. Time went out my head for a moment with The Man in Black. Then we'll be back next Sunday at 1:50 with Lone Gunman Rides again, and at 8 p.m. with Last Jacobites International. So take care in the meantime, and we will see you soon. Good night.
Good night.
We are the last Jacobites, proud and free, will not be bought nor bend the knee. Like our brothers cry and freedom's flame, we rise as one and stake our claim. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as one in truth and right. From every shore we answer the call, Clan Jacobite, we rise or fall. It matters not our skin or land, but hearts as one and hand in hand. The blood we share is brave and bold, in woven dreams and legends old. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as one in truth and right. From every shore we answer the call, Clan Jacobite, we rise or fall. I am you and you are me, a thread within this tapestry. For hopes of all, for every name, we light the fire, we keep the flame. No sea can part us, nor the land. Together strong, we proudly stand. With courage, truth, and spirits high, we pledge our oath beneath the sky. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as one in truth and right. Raise the banner.